Thanks for downloading this week's episode. D-Bot, what's up, dude?
Yo, what's going on, Alex? How you been, brother?
I've been good, man. I'm good. I'm ready to talk some sports with you this week. But before we get started, I got to ask these beautiful people to please give us a follow on Twitter and Instagram at WestBoxScore. And don't forget about our compadre, Sonny Hermano. He has a podcast too, right?
Yeah, he does. It's called the Fox Rate Podcast. It's where vinyl meets culture. If we were to put it in 3 words, that's what it is.
Right. That would be our hard pitch, right? Like, go download it right now. You want to hear about vinyl? You want to hear about culture? Boom! Sonny's got you covered on the Fox Crate Podcast. He's also on the IG. He's at the Fox Crate. And also, dude, that Discord is blowing up, right?
Yeah, it is. It's taking off. People really loving it. People loving what we are doing there. People love joining the community that we have, getting to talk LA sports, getting to talk LA life. I know we have a lot of Angelinos in there. Shout out to Brianna, Parker, Nahum, Big Money Matt.
And also former Angelinos now. Shout out to Billy Delgado up there in the area.
Yeah, in the area.
And also, man, I got to ask you to please do us a favor. We have now a referral link to Sailor Brew's coffee, right?
Yes, we do. You get 10% off your first order. We also have a promo code you can enter, WBS10, for 10% off on Sailor's Brew coffee. Really good coffee, like single origin Ethiopian coffee and Jamaica Blue Mountain. Really good. Sailor's Brew coffee, helping you sail through the day's storms. Safe sails, everyone.
Yes, sir. That's some damn good coffee, I got to say. And if you use that code at checkout, you get 10% off your order. You also help this podcast out. So be sure it's a win-win. It's a no-brainer there, guys. Help out your favorite sports podcast, which is this one, West Box Score. Get some delicious Sailor Brew coffee because it is good. It really that taste matters, right? Like,
yes,
it's
it does.
Really, you could tell the difference, man. I'm such a hardcore coffee drinker now that when I drink, like, I used to love McDonald's coffee and I still do in a pinch, right? Over Starbucks. Yeah. But this Sailor Brew, man, it just hits different and it's true. It's good coffee. WBS10 at checkout, 10% off your first order, and you help out this podcast. So please do it when you can. So without further ado, it's time to start this week's show. I'm excited to welcome our official Los Angeles Clippers correspondent, one Clipper Pablo Cabrera. What's up, dude?
Hey, man. How's it going? Thank you for having me back.
It's good. It's good to have you on because, in the later stages here of June, the later stages of the NBA playoffs, that your Clippers are the only team still representing LA. How does that make you feel, Pablo?
It feels good. To be honest with you, now I feel like I have to be on with you guys because I worked for the first 2 rounds. So I kind of have no choice at this point.
Do you feel like you're giving the West Box Score is giving the Clippers a good luck charm, a superstition here?
No, I think so. If it's Paul George, Kawhi, Morris, and then this podcast.
Absolutely. One Pablo Cabrera, Clipper Pablo here is the missing piece of that Clipper puzzle here. So as you're listening to this podcast now, the Western Conference Finals are underway, but the first time in LA Clippers history, the Clippers are there. And it's surprising because the road to get there was obviously not an easy one. This franchise has been, for lack of a better term, almost snake bit. Seems like they're cursed. They're just never going to get there. Getting so close. What was it? 8 times previously, 1 game away from being there, and just not getting it done. And then Game 6, Pablo, happens on a Friday evening, and we talked about it a little bit at our day jobs, and I was like, "Are you excited for this game?" And you're like, "I'm not even thinking about it yet." You didn't even want to think about the game yet while you were at work. So I just thought it was so funny as another fellow sports fan with believing in a lot of superstitions and just don't want to be out there, just kind of throwing just. Focus on the task in front of you, and then I'll pay attention to the game afterwards. When the game time finally happened, what was your feeling?
Well, I feel like it was a little different because there was that Game 7 cushion. So whatever happens, you can always go back to Utah. Nobody wants to do that, but
you're at home. You can close it out at home.
Sure, but they won Game 7. in Dallas against the Mavericks. So it was one of those things that, yes, you don't want to go back to Utah, but if it comes down to that, then it's fine. But I'm so happy that they took care of it at home.
And as you're watching that game and they go down 25 points and you have that cushion, you're fine. You're okay. You're okay with it, right? Even though it's a full capacity, full vaccination, quote unquote, Staples Center. So you got to see that crowd and you got to be like, come on, let's get involved. Or what was your feeling watching that game when they're down 25?
Yeah, to be honest with you, at that point, your shots are not going in. The Jazz was having such a great night that you just kind of start thinking about, okay, you know what, this isn't their night. There's another game that they can go to, so it's fine. But I think having Staples Center at capacity helped so much, especially when you need to come back from down 25. It was such a big deal, and you could just feel it even just watching on TV how important this was for the team. So I think had it not been full capacity, I don't think it would have happened.
Yeah, definitely. Clippers fed off the crowd that was there, helping them and the team too. Like, how do you the inner champion, for lack of a better word now, because they're playing for a championship now, to just not give up when you're down 25. Who do you credit there? Do you credit Tyronn Lue for helping them get through that?
I think he has made so many good adjustments throughout the playoffs. Something that I know people talk shit all the time, but with Doc Rivers, you kind of didn't have that. Like, he felt his original plan was the good one, and he's going to live or die with whatever he's throwing out there because he thinks in his heart that it's going to work. And even if it doesn't, he thought, you know what? No, it's going to come together. I think Ty Lue is huge, but also nobody was expecting those 23rd quarter points from Terrence Mann. And that just changes everything because you're missing your big star. Paul George is, having a decent night, but man, had it not been for Terrence Mann, that wouldn't have happened.
Is he going to be the guy who helps you get over the hump? Well, those two games that Kawhi Leonard's been out, right? In these last two games in the semifinals, in the West semifinals. Who do you credit more for getting those two wins? Is it Paul George or is it Terrence Mann? Is it Reggie Jackson? Who really helped the Clippers get over the hump here?
The thing that happens when your star goes down, it just becomes a team effort. Right. So Paul George, I think he needs to keep doing what he's been doing, especially these playoffs. But at the end of the day, it's going to be all the other guys, the guys that nobody talks about, like Terrence Mann. Nobody was expecting that. But also, if you watched Reggie Jackson in that fourth quarter, he was huge. Of course, nobody talks about him because Terrence Mann has had such a big day. And then you also have Paul George. But he did so much for the team. So at this point, if everybody plays their role, they might keep going. But once again, it's going to be a team effort. You don't have Kawhi, the guy who's going to give you 40 points every night. You knew you could expect that from him, but now he's gone. So I don't think you can expect Terrence Mann to have another game that big. Mm-hmm. But I think if he gives you 15, 20, but then you also get 15, 20 from Reggie Jackson and Nick and Batum and Morris, then they should be in good shape.
So walk us through as they're cutting into that 25-point lead in that second half. What's going through your mind? Even though you have the cushion, right, of a game 7, on the road though, do you think, are you like just on the edge of your seat? Do you realize that whatever you were doing at that time and you keep doing it? Like, what superstition were you doing at home at this time?
Yeah, so it's a little bit of that, right? Like, if they go on a run, you don't move, but then they go on a run, so you have to move. And but it was funny because I didn't think I don't want to say that I didn't think they had it in them, but once again, you have that cushion. It was not just your night, move on. But then they started coming back, and it was funny because there was this Reggie Jackson 3 that cut it down to 2. And the place was going crazy. And my girlfriend turns to me and she goes, "Why aren't you excited?" because I was so calm throughout the whole thing because I couldn't do anything, right? I couldn't move. You don't know if you move an arm. That's the key right there. So I wasn't getting happy or anything. I wasn't cheering. I was just, very calm. And then it wasn't until the fourth when they started to come back all the way and the Jazz just couldn't do anything that I started cheering.
That's awesome, man. That was an impressive comeback win. And I think on Twitter and everyone's been talking about that's probably the greatest Clippers win in their franchise history. It's got to be, right?
Because it doesn't matter what happens now, right? I think the last time I spoke with you guys, I told you how good I think the Pheonix Suns are. I do think they're the best team. But just the fact that there was something that you've been wanting to do for 50 years and all of a sudden it happens, it means something, So yeah, you'll be hearing a lot of fans talking about how huge the night was. I watched the game, I think, 4 times. And not just that, but last night when I was coming back home, I found the Jazz radio broadcast of the game. I was looking for the Clippers broadcast, but I couldn't find it. But I found the Jazz, and I was listening to that on my way home. Just the second half, because fuck the first half. But
of course,
it was kind of cool, but at the same time, you feel so bad for that team because they were hearing it and seeing the collapse happening. It happens. They're in disbelief, and then it keeps happening. And then at the end, they're just like, man, this was supposed to be our season, and it wasn't. And you kind of feel for them because we've been in that spot so many times before. So
right.
So no, it felt good. People might say, well, it's just a Western Conference, but this hasn't happened before. So it's huge.
Exactly. This is for the Clippers to make it to their first ever Western Conference Finals in that fashion, when you think they're about to collapse like they always do. And then they come back from such a deficit that you have to feel so much momentum is riding with you going into that game one of the Western Conference Finals that you think, this is our year. This has got to be it. This has got to be a cleansing of all the wrongs, right? Because this is it.
Yeah, it's so stupid, but just winning that game, it gives you that confidence. Like people are already talking about like, oh my God, are we gonna face Philadelphia? And it's like, dude, you have the Suns right in front of you. You're not gonna get past them. But you're right. It just gives you that confidence that just wasn't there before, especially since your big star goes down and you still won. So at this point, you kind of hope that it carries over.
It's impressive. The Clippers were supposed to be out after Game 5 when Kawhi went down. They were supposed to be done in 2 games. They go and win those next 2 games, and now here they are in the Western Conference Finals. Game 1 against the Pheonix Suns, in Phoenix. What were you expecting in this Game 1, and how did it play out for you? What you saw?
I wasn't expecting much. There's something to be said about going through that Game 6 and all of a sudden less than 48 hours and now you're playing Game 1, which is so odd that the NBA does it that way. But to be honest with you, I wasn't expecting much. I'm happy that Paul George kind of did his thing. Unfortunately today he didn't get the type of help that he's been getting in those wins. But at the same time, you got to give credit to the Suns because they've been preparing. They're super fresh. They had an entire week off. And more power to them for being able to close out Denver. But I don't think anyone thought this was a winnable game. You would have loved to steal it, but it just didn't happen. You get another shot on Tuesday and kind of hope for the best.
I was going to ask you, so obviously it was a really close game, especially towards the end. And like you said earlier, right now, it felt like they could have stolen it, right? I think once that it was like 116, 114, it felt like, oh, shoot, okay. Obviously, this would look really bad on the Suns, given that they had a whole week off. That team that just played 2 days ago is now like keeping it really close. I think overall my takeaway is obviously it was a good game overall, game one. It did say more about the Suns. I mean, they're a very resilient team, but it did make me think like, oh wow, like this isn't like a blowout game, which is what they've been doing with the Nuggets and the Lakers. They really just torched them. But then at the same time, I'm thinking this is a Clipper team that just came off a huge momentum swing and are like kind of a little bit, feeling a little bulletproof right now. So it was interesting. But what would you say based on what you saw, obviously not much you could say outside the fact that, the Clippers only had one day off. I mean, to me, they look already burnt out by the last couple of minutes. What would you say should happen in game two in terms of like, what did you see the Suns do that the Clippers have in their roster to be able to counter certain things that you saw on the floor?
Well, I think to start, DeAndre Ayton is way different than Gobert. I mean, Gobert is just a defender. I feel like Ayton has a higher IQ when it comes to making things happen. And if, just watching the game, he made him pay many times. I think Booker is going to do his thing toward the end. They had Rondo kind of there to close out the game. I would have loved to see Patrick Beverley a little more. I feel like he just does something. He especially when he's defending the big names. I would have liked to see a little bit more of him. I think just too many stupid mistakes by Zubats and as big as Cousins was in terms of points, that's kind of what that you take the good with the bad, because every single time, he'll play 10 minutes and have 5 fouls. I think today he almost fouled out, so you kind of take that and go into game two knowing that, okay, you're going to have to give up some of this because now it doesn't work. And the other thing about today is that people will talk about how this was the game to take because Chris Paul wasn't there. But I still think that Chris Paul, of course, changes everything. But there is a way. I think there is a way if everybody does their jobs. I mean, he is a little older at this point, so maybe you can attack him a little more. Who knows? But if we've seen something throughout the playoffs, is that Ty Lue has been kind of good at adjusting. So that's my only takeaway at this point. Let's see what he does. If he thinks this works best for this team, then we're gonna have to go with that. He had already said that today I'm gonna play 10, 11 guys, something that he hasn't done because the rest just wasn't there.
And it's interesting that you just brought that up because, again, NBA Twitter is so wild, and it's funny how like there's a lot of people who I don't know if they're really paying attention to the game that they're watching, but yeah, they did say that in the pregame that Ty Lue was going to go deep on the bench, that it was pretty much going to be even the guys that you didn't realize were on the team are going to be playing. You're like, oh wow, we had that guy. So people on Twitter were saying like, oh, like I don't know how the Clippers are not taking care of this team given that what's wrong with like Ty Lue's leaving the bench out there for too long and all that. And it was kind of like, well, they did just say that in the pregame that they were going to play them. So what did you expect the team that only had a 1 day of rest to do? And on top of that, like I did see that even other on Twitter, even other fellow people who are not big fans of the Clippers mentioning things like, oh, like the Clippers, Doncic was hurt, Donovan Mitchell was hurt. You know what I mean? Oh, like, of course, CP3's out. What do you have to say about, like, the critics out there who are kind of trying to paint the narrative that, the Clippers are having a kind of like a bit of an easy path to this playoff run?
I would say that injuries happen to everyone. I mean, don't go too far. The Clippers are missing their best player. Right now, so exactly. You kind of deal with it. You kind of hope that they always have that next man up mentality, and they have shown it to this point. But people will always say something. I mean, people still talk shit about LeBron and all those great years that he had, and it's like, dude, I mean, he was great. At this point, you're just finding something to complain about. So I think people will keep doing that. But anything can happen. Things change so quickly. I mean, like with the Jazz, Mike Conley went down and he came back and he just wasn't very good. Like even if Kawhi comes back, who knows what he's going to be. So just the fact that the Clippers were missing their best player, that just goes to show that this is something that everyone's had to deal with.
Right now with these both teams suffering injuries, right? Kawhi down for the Clippers, CP3 down for the Suns. Who does that favor if both players don't make it back in the entire term of this series?
Well, I think Kawhi, his situation being an actual injury, I think the Suns have everything to gain because Chris Paul will come back at some point. He's fine.
Well, it depends what Dr. Fauci says.
Yes, and hopefully they will say no, but he's fine. I'm sure he's working out every day. When he comes back, he will be 100%. Kawhi, first of all, you don't know if he's going to come back this year, and if he does, you don't know if he's going to be 100%. I mean,
you're going to have an Anthony Davis situation.
Yeah, so he probably won't be 100%. So I think if both come back, Phoenix definitely has the upper hand.
I will say, I think the one thing I did see from this game in game one is that it felt like there was no answer for Devin Booker. And at the same time, I'm thinking about it, is this just Devin Booker, like being the great player that he is? Like, I mean, there's comparisons to Kobe on Twitter about it, right? They're putting the memes of like the spirit of Kobe over him and all that. And it's kind of funny to see. But at the same time, I'm thinking in my head, like, well, I mean, this Clipper defense can defend. I mean, they defended the Jazz really well. That was a big part of that win, which is they knew how to get the stops. But I mean, my takeaway was like I saw Terrence Mann, and it didn't look like he couldn't defend him at all. And Rondo could do it, but unfortunately, Rondo can't do it for the whole game because of his age. It's just he can't. And I just kind of wonder what is Ty Lue going to do with this Devin Booker situation outside the trap, because they trapped a lot. But then what happened is he knew he kicked it out, swing, 3-pointer, win it, or pass it to Aiden, and then Aiden would dunk it, obviously. So how do you counter that? I wonder, like, what does Ty Lue do in that situation?
Well, I think the strategy today, even though they did double him, it was, Booker is going to do his thing. The same thing with Donovan Mitchell, the same thing with Luka Doncic, right? He's going to do his thing. Let's hope that everyone else misses. And that usually doesn't work well when they're at home, because they have they have their entire crowd behind them. I think Devin Booker, this is going to be the first of a couple triple doubles that he's going to have in this series. There's only so much that you can do, as you said. You can throw different looks at him. Maybe don't pick him up at half court and make him drive. Who knows at this point? But we do have very good defenders. But today it just didn't work out. As I said, I did see them a little tired. They performed way better than I thought they were going to. And another thing about this Clippers team, and I don't know if this is good or bad, but they have that whole thing in which they went down 2-0 before. And they have that mentality of, we came here to steal a game, but even if we don't, we still have a chance.
Yeah, the rest of the schedule, it's every other day, right? So there's no double 2 days off for the Clippers the rest of this way. So they gotta dig deep, get that strength from somewhere. What is your feeling for the rest of this series? Do you think they could find a way?
They have before, right? So it would be weird for me to say, no, hell no, they're not going to. Right. They're going to get swept. I hope they don't get swept, but
no Suns in 4.
that fucking guy. But I think today it would have been good to take it. I expect game 2 to be just as close, but I don't know if they're going to be able to go over, to just have that little bit that they're missing in order to take it. But once again, they already have that confidence that even if they don't steal game 2, there's still a chance. There's still a chance. And even if they go down 25, there's still a chance. And that does a lot for a team's mental capacity. So I think
Absolutely, yeah.
I hope Paul George gets more help in game 2. Somebody needs to step up. I know Morris went out a little bit today because he was hurt. He ended up coming back. So who knows what his situation is.
It's an impressive run we've been seeing so far by this Clipper team. As a Lakers fan, I got to tip my cap to the way your Clippers have been playing so far. They have been impressive to watch. I know you are a hardcore Clippers fan, so I'm very happy for you. I hope the rest of the way you're able to enjoy it on the couch there and not move your arms as when they go on the run. Able to have a drink whenever you're actually winning. So I gotta ask you this final thing: are you going to make it out to see any of these games in person one more time to give them the good luck and cheer them on as you did in a win and a playoff win?
If they make it to game 6, I might be able to go to game 6. So
Nice,
we'll
man.
see.
Interesting. There we go.
Real quick, I want to ask you, Pablo, because I know you're an NBA nerd like I am. What are your thoughts on this Bucks versus Nets series? Did you really think it was going to be the way it turned out?
No. I as I told you guys, even before the playoffs started, I thought the Nets were gonna go all the way. I was watching Game 7, and it's so odd. First of all, to see a player play the entire game nowadays, and it's both good and bad. I think Kevin Durant just kind of ran out of gas there toward the end. To be honest with you, I don't know who's going to win the Philadelphia Hawks series at that, Game 7 coming up. I just don't see the Bucks having what it takes to go all the way.
Yeah.
I don't. I saw the Nets having everything, but then Kyrie went down. That changes everything. Harden was never 100%. So that changed everything. But man, if they had been healthy, that would have been a tough team.
So you're saying this Western Conference Finals is the real NBA Finals?
You know what? In a way. Yeah, in a way, yes. I think the Suns are way better than both the Bucks and whoever comes out of the other game. And to an extent, the Clippers could be better than both of them, especially if Kawhi comes back at some point. Of course, we don't know that, but I do think whoever's the Western Conference champion might go all the way.
I respect that swagger because as a Laker fan, I'm telling you the same thing. We would say the same thing when the Lakers were in Western Conference Finals matchups. Yeah. And we were looking at anybody on the East.
And the Bucks
Lakers
were Sonny's pick coming out of the East. Sonny Hermano with the
that's right.
prophecy
Yeah.
there.
Well, with one more round to go and see if he's right.
I think a lot of people have Trae Young. Like, he's won a lot of people over, So I think a lot of people are kind of hoping Atlanta pulls it out, even though if they do it, that would be the upset because I think Philadelphia is the favorite to win that. But yeah.
We want to see an NBA Finals run in the A. That's definitely for sure. Clipper Pablo, good luck to your Clippers the rest of the way, man. And thank you for taking the time to join us again on West Box Score. Good luck, man.
Thank you. And if it keeps working, I'll keep coming on even without the invite.